this week I want to take a look at why, contrary to a lot of other sequels to 80s movies, the new Beetlejuice movie actually works. Let's dive in. So, Tim Burton's Beetlejuice, or Beetlejuice 2, was finally released earlier this month. I personally loved the first movie that was released over 30 years ago in 1988, and I tend to watch it every few years. So when I got back from my vacation, I got my tan behind into a local theater to get some popcorn and watch that sequel. Up till a few years ago, it was pretty unusual for studios to dish out a sequel to a movie that was over 30 years old. But in the last decade, it has become a bit of a thing.
Yes, Salem, we're back!
The studios seem to love tapping into my generation's childhood memories to milk us for every single dollar. On top of that, the creators of those old movies usually have a script lying around somewhere in a drawer, catching dust for over a decade, with an idea for a sequel. So they'll gladly jump on board of the nostalgia train. And you know what? I'm fine with that. The thing is, it hasn't always been as successful. Trying to tap into whatever made those movies successful back in the day is not easy. Times have changed. We have changed. One instance of a movie series that left me slightly disappointed with the sequels are the Ghostbuster movies. And I'm not talking about that reboot. Now, I wouldn't call them bad, per se. They definitely have their charms and they are entertaining, but they did not manage to capture that same sense of wonder, that cheeky tone, that same excitement that the original movies did. That is, for me personally at least. But Beetlejuice 2? It kinda did. Now, does it have the exact same effect as the first one did? Of course not. That Beetlejuice can was opened and it cannot be closed again. But does it feel like a proper sequel to that first movie? That it does. And I think that is for some really specific reasons. And I'm going to list 5 of them. The first one might be an obvious one, but it is a very important one. Tim Burton, the director, the creator. His style is so unique that it not only lifts or drops any movie he makes to a different level, but it also ties all of his movies together. To the point where some people have theories about it all being set in the same universe, which I think is a bit of a stretch.
Off with his head!
I mean, I can see Edward Scissorhands and Beetlejuice being in the same universe, but definitely not Batman. Although...
What are you laughing at?
The thing is that the distinct style makes it easier to connect your movies, which allows him to make a sequel for a 30-year-old movie, like he did with Beetlejuice 2. The second reason is the cast. It takes quite a lot of talent to take a character that you played over 30 years ago and make it evolve in a new movie that feels convincing, that feels real, that makes sense. Catherine O'Hara is a really good example of how that is done.
If you don't let me gut out this house and make it my own, I will go insane and I will take you with me!
She blew me away in that movie. Catherine puts down a version of Delia Dietz, the mother or the stepmother of Lydia Dietz, that was both recognizable but also refreshing.
What? Why? No! No! No!
Maria, what's wrong? Oh, I'm trying to capture the perfect primal scream. I'm going to blow it up, mount it on the wall, and I invite all of you to do the same.
She aged that character that felt true to her personality, but on the other hand also showed her age. You could sense that her relationship with Winona Ryder's character Lydia had gone through all kinds of phases but landed in quite a good spot. A different spot. Which kind of brings me to the third point. The characters. Most of the original cast, which wasn't that big, made a return. Except for, yeah, and this is a bit of a spoiler, so if you don't want to know, maybe stop. The Maitlands. They're not in there. They were played by Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis in the first movie. And the reason they did not make a return was because they are ghosts. And ghosts are not supposed to age. While Gina and Alec, yeah, they kind of did. So that makes sense. Now, Beetlejuice also was not supposed to age, but let's be honest, with all that makeup, you do not see any difference.
What are your qualifications?
Well, I attended Juilliard,
I'm a graduate of the Harvard Business School. I travel quite extensively. I lived through the Black Plague, and I had a pretty good time during that. I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it. Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy. Now, what do you think? You think I'm qualified?
And then there's Charles Dietz. He does make a return, but in a very peculiar way. See, Jeffrey Jones played Charles in the first movie, but he turned out to be a bit of an offender, if you catch my drift. However, the main characters do make a return, and that is Lydia and, of course, Beetlejuice himself. On top of that, Burton added some new characters that feel very true to the world, but bring a fresh touch. It also helps that they're being played by some impressive names, like Monica Bellucci, Jenny Ortega, and Justin Theroux. And that's besides some surprising guest appearances. I'm not going to spoil those. You need to figure those out for yourself. By the way, I also love that they took those shrunken head characters that we saw in the first movie at the end and kind of ran with it. In some cases, literally. Anyways, number 4 is the fact that the script is not just a copy of that of the first movie. Sure, there's another angry, edgy daughter that is upset with her parents, and good old Beetlejuice, his motivation is still the same, but the circumstances that this all happens are very different, which allows the story to spin in some interesting directions. And that includes quite a few subplots. Quite a lot, actually. I do have to say, however, that I like the original story a little better. That's just personal. Now, the 5th and last reason why this movie worked is Beetlejuice himself. That character is not only unique and funny, they also use it in a very smart way. See, in the first movie, he has about 17 minutes of screen time in total over the whole movie. Very unusual for a character in a movie that bears his name. But yet it helped. It helped to keep him fresh. Yeah, I know that that is a weird choice of words in the case of Beetlejuice.
Here, hold that for me, would you?
Whoa!
There you go.
You don't have to kill anybody.
Possession. Good.
But the less he gets shown, the bigger the mystery is around his persona, the bigger his impact is, and also the fewer chances they get to actually kind of ruin that character. Accidentally, of course. And in the second movie, they did the exact same thing. It's genius. Michael Keaton himself was part of that plan, and that makes sense. He is and will always be Beetlejuice. Look, I've seen quite a few of his movies, including Tim Burton's Batman, which is still one of my favorite movies.
Vicky Vale.
Bruce Wayne.
And what do you do for a living?
And he is that type of actor that puts a lot of his own personality in whatever character he plays. In Beetlejuice, he did the same thing, but he kind of emphasized or magnified some of his own traits that are funny or weird, till the point where it reaches that absurd level. And then they throw some special effects on top of that, and you get the perfect mix. It works. It is a joy to watch him play that character. So if you dose all of that perfectly, don't overuse it, you get a good sequel. And again, I'm not saying that this sequel is going to have the same effect on you in case you watched the original movie back in the 80s.
Okay, you look great.
But I do think anyone that watches him now for the first time back to back will agree that they did a great job at making this sequel, that they extended this story in a very natural way. If all directors would be able to do it this way, which is a big ask, except for Back to the Future, do not touch those movies.
Great Scott.
For now, however, that was it. Make sure to subscribe because I'm going to be back with a new video next week. But until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye-bye.